Alrighty, this is Tan from Clocked and Loaded, and today I'm going to walk you through how to begin making your own homebrew scripts and homebrew characters for Blood on the Clocktower. Maybe you've already seen some cool homebrew out there and you want to try to make your own. Maybe you've been building custom scripts using only official characters and you wish you could finally add original roles that fit your vision better. That brings us to the big question we're trying to answer here. Why create homebrew when we already have so many well play-tested and balanced characters at our disposal? The simple answer is fun, and the challenge of trying to create something truly interesting and unique. Every official Blood on the Clocktower script has every single character specifically designed for that environment. No jinxes, no characters that clash with each other. Everything fits together cleanly and intentionally. In my opinion, if you want to make scripts that feel that tight, you eventually have to tailor make some roles to fit your design perfectly. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through my personal thought process for creating homebrew characters and scripts. This is not the only correct way to do it. This is simply how I approach the process and how I think about design. I will be assuming that you already understand the basics of building a fun and balanced script using existing characters. If you're looking for a beginner breakdown of basic script building, I already have a video on that. I will link it up here, and that video will have additional resources in the description from other creators who are smarter than me and know a little bit more about it as well. Let's start by looking at some great examples of homebrew scripts in Blood on the Clocktower. From my point of view, there are really two types of homebrew scripts. One is made entirely of original roles with no official characters at all. Another type uses a mix of official characters and a number of homebrew roles. Having created both, I can confidently say that the second type is much easier to build and takes significantly less time. Although, both are fun. Here are two strong examples of the mixed approach. The first is Elven Court. When you look at it, you'll notice that most of the characters are official, supported by a handful of homebrew roles. You might also spot characters like the Thespian, Imposter, and Queen. These are widely speculated future official roles, but since they're not publicly released yet, we should still treat them as homebrew for design purposes. The second example is Identity Crisis. If you look closely, you'll notice that this script is very similar to Trouble Brewing, with a few notable substitutions and, most importantly, the addition of a few homebrew demons. Having played both of these scripts, I can tell you that they each have a very strong identity and feel completely different from an average game. Elven Court leans into mass madness and even features a demon that can be good in the fairy. Identity Crisis, on the other hand, is built around the uncertainty of knowing your real role. You can almost never be sure if you are potentially the drunk, a marionette, a mere fiend, etc. These are both examples of how a small number of custom characters can completely transform the way a game feels and create something really unique. Now let's take a look at two examples of popular fully homebrew scripts in Blood on the Clocktower. Even though every single role on these scripts is homebrew, you will quickly notice something important. Most of these homebrew characters still fall into very familiar character archetypes. For example, the Grog Blossom and the Bad Omen both fulfill a similar role to that of the Drunk, and in this case, also the Recluse. They are not exactly identical, but they are functionally the same. You might also notice that the Hannibal character on Fall of Rome is effectively the same role as the Mirror Fiend from Identity Crisis. That is a topic we'll come back to later. Even though all of these characters are completely new and unique, both Townsfolk lineups still follow strong foundational script building design. You can clearly see a mix of start knowing and each night information, roles that have an effect during the day, roles that hunt effectively the demon and the minion, roles that want to lie, roles that want to die at night, and then on the evil side, a balance of different types of misinformation between poisoning and outsider manipulation. In other words, when you're creating a full homebrew script, it is still super important to obey the basic principles of good script building. You'll also notice that Fall of Rome highlights a custom global rule, sort of like a Lorik. This rule is called I am Spartacus, and it directly interacts with multiple characters on the script and acts as a central mechanical pillar that shapes how the entire script plays out. Alright, now we move into the first real step of creating a script. Finding your concept. I strongly believe that good scripts are built around one strong main idea, supported by a few smaller secondary ideas. Less is more here. My personal bias always leans towards tight, balanced game design, and that starts with restraint. If everything is special and crazy, nothing is special. Your concept should answer one simple question. What makes this script feel different from every other script of Blood on the Clocktower? Here's a few loose concept examples to show what I mean. Evil wants to die. In this concept, evil players don't mind dying. In fact, dying helps them quite a lot. Town has to question every single night death. Was this an evil kill? Was it a good kill? I'm thinking Vigor Mortis vibes. Secret deaths. Players are dying, but nobody knows it. Think Barrow Fog vibes. The town has to solve both who is dead and who is lying about being alive. All the Outsiders. A script with 5 or 6 outsiders where they all hold an absurd amount of power and can completely swing the game. Heavy plus outsider manipulation. I'm thinking Zon. So many double claims. Why are there 3 monks, 4 fortune tellers? Pixie and madness style effects everywhere. Information's flooding the game, but nobody knows what's real. It's figuring out which info is real that's important. All minions, no demons. A script where minions are the true threat and the demon is a placeholder. The real power and fear comes from extra minions in play, super powerful minions. I'm thinking Little Monster vibes. And nominations have power. Be careful when you nominate. Be careful who nominates. Town crier vibes, but pushed to the extreme. The act of nominating and potentially voting is just as dangerous as the nighttime. Each one of these is a single core idea. Anything else that you would add later should exist in support of the main idea, not distracting from it. All right, I'm going to focus on one specific concept, and we're going to build out a script together. The concept is going to be a script centered entirely around double claims. Before I even think about specific characters or start brewing my designs, I'm going to set up some design constraints. These are going to be my guardrails. They protect my concept and start the script from drifting into chaos for the wrong reasons. It also sets me a starting point and some goals with my script design. First, I want good and evil to equally have reasons to double claim. It's no fun if every double claim involves an evil, or, oh, you can trust the double claim every time. So they both need real incentives to double claim. Players seeing the same token. I want there to be a way for this to happen on the script because I think this would be extremely fun and interesting. I don't want this to just be a madness script. That's a different concept entirely. I'm going to limit myself to 1, maybe 2 madness characters at most. I want the double claims to come from interesting game mechanics, not just a bunch of madness. I want plenty of ways to solve for what role players have. If there's going to be a million double claims, the town needs real and powerful tools to fight back against it. Lots of hard claims. Double claims only matter if people are hard claiming their role. So the script needs to be designed in such a way where players are strongly encouraged to commit to public claims early and often. And then I need a way to make outsiders double claim that is interesting. So with these goals in mind, I can now start to think about some characters. The most important and interesting part of this script is the double claims themselves. Because of that, I know I need to design a few homebrew pillar characters that will actively force double claims to happen. These are going to be the mechanical backbone of the script. These are my characters that make the main theme strong, cohesive, and unique. My goal is to design 2 pillar characters for each team, because I want both good and evil to have real reasons to double claim. First character is going to be the imposter. This is already a heavily speculated character, and it fits with my theme perfectly. So tweaking the design, it will cause an evil player to double claim and make the information useless of the player it's double claiming. Perfect for my script. Secondly, Keeper. I wanted a way for the demon's bluffs to be messed with, so they can't fully trust them, and they need to either double claim or fall into a claim outside their bluffs. For the mistress, I wanted a character that would prevent outsiders from coming out and thus leading to more double claims naturally from the good players. And then False Heart. A character that mechanically makes it so that 2 players can see the same token. One of them is true, one of them is false. A core piece of what's going to make this script unique and fun. Now, transparently, none of these characters are our first pass. And I have already created the script. Originally, these characters were very different. And through playtesting, iteration, and repeated failure, they've slowly evolved into the versions they have now. And this is something that is so important. The majority of your design process is not going to be inventing, it is going to be testing. You make a script, play a game, watch your script break, and rebuild it better. Let's also circle back to something important about original design. At this point, I've had this script in design for several months. And in my research to find interesting roles and unique mechanics for the script, I have found other people who've created roles independently of mine with similar ideas or extremely similar ideas. And honestly, that is normal. The design space for Blood on the Clocktower is limited in such a way that many people will naturally converge on the same ideas. My concern is not being the first person to think of something. My concern is creating something that I believe in and that comes together in a neat package, which is your script. Quality first. If I see a design that already exists and I like it and it will fit, like the imposter, I will use it and I'll credit it in my custom almanac that I make with my script. If I later see someone publish a character that is close to one of my original ideas, I'm not going to sweat it. The one thing that I personally avoid is changing official characters. If I want something slightly different, I build something new instead of rewriting what I feel is the official game. All right, let's jump back into custom character design and why characters change through testing. I'm going to use the Keeper as an example because I think its evolution is really interesting. The original version of Keeper said, the demon only learns one bluff. This successfully accomplished my goal of forcing the evil team into more double claims. Even if this version was balanced correctly, it was not very fun. Functionally, it played a similar role to the magician. It was a roadblock for evil without directly giving the town information. The problem was, unlike the magician, the Keeper had no job. The magician really does have a purpose. They pretend to be evil. They're trying to bait out the evil team, even though they have no information themselves. The Keeper just existed and hoped its passive effect mattered. That's not fun. The second version of Keeper was, you learn the demon bluffs. Now the Keeper has powerful information and a clear way to expose the evil team. This is exciting and fun for the Keeper, but now it's created the opposite problem. Because the evil team now doesn't know if the Keeper is in play, they could never fully trust their bluffs. This meant Keepers warping the game even when it was not actually in the bag. And that kind of invisible pressure is unhealthy for design. So now we have this version here. The demon only receives 2 bluffs, you learn one of them. Now, evil has a reason to distrust their bluffs only when the keeper is in play. And the keeper has just enough information to have a task. Potentially they hide what that bluff is and try to catch somebody out later into the game. Maybe they come out with it early and squeeze the evil team down. Maybe the evil team doesn't use any of the bluffs because they're scared of being found out. The keeper has just enough information to actively play a role instead of sitting idle. There's counterplay to both sides of the gameplay and real decisions. Let's briefly talk about the Mistress design as well, because it went through a correction. Originally, the Mistress executed players who were mad about being outsiders. This accomplished the goal of the character, but it turned out to be extremely oppressive. The problem was it could execute players who were already dead. Not being allowed to share your information after death is simply not fun. So that version was reworked into something less punishing and more interactive. Thus, the current version of Mistress. To recap what I've said, when you're creating homebrew characters, you should be thinking about a few things. Obviously, balance and power level is important. The role that specific character is going to serve on your script. How fun is it to play as and against? And what are its common play patterns? And does that support a dynamic game? A character can be clever and still be bad design. A character can be powerful and still be boring to play. The goal is not just making something that works. The goal is making something that is fun to interact with on both sides of the table and supports your concept in a strong way. All right, now that I had the base of homebrew characters, my next question became, are there official characters in existence that naturally fit my design? The answer in this case was yes. So I decided that I wanted to do a homebrew script with some official characters and some of my homebrew. This is obviously a powerful shortcut in creating a script. If a character already does what you need, don't reinvent the wheel. Or don't try really hard to remake The Undertaker in a unique way that's just less clean of a design space. So, I narrowed down the list to 5 official characters that supported my theme perfectly. First, Undertaker, Dreamer, and Juggler. These are my 3 primary tools for confirming players' roles. With this much misinformation in the game, Town needs a way to lock things in, and this is how they fight against the double claims. Next was Pixie, which seemed like a perfect fit on paper, right? It creates double claims and can confirm somebody's role. Finally, Oho seemed like an obvious fit as a demon, and in the sea of double claims, Oho wants to kill the true target and not the false heart, for example. However, after testing, one of these characters needed to be cut. Surprisingly, it was the Pixie. Pixie looks like it belongs on the script. The problem is what happens when the character the Pixie saw dies and the Pixie gains the ability. At that point, the double claim, or on this script, often the triple claim, is immediately solved. And an evil player who is in that triple claim is going to be exposed. This went against evil wanting to double claim and making them want to avoid it, while also making it really hard for them to avoid it. So it just worked against my design goals. So even though Pixie seemed theoretically perfect, in practice, it worked against the concept. And that is exactly why we test. The next step is fleshing out the misinformation package for evil and the rest of the townsfolk roles for good. This is where important secondary concepts started to naturally emerge on my script. One of the big decisions I made was that I wanted my script to have 0 to 1 deaths at night, similar to the pacing of Trouble Brewing. However, I wanted evil to have ways to speed the game up through deaths during the day, which is where Witch was introduced and of course the mistress. I also liked the idea of outsiders who want to live and who would want to out, but are scared to do so because of the mistress. On the left, I have an early playtest version of my script, which I named Hall of Mirrors, and that's where the Puzzle Master and Dowager originally fit in perfectly. They both would love to out, but if they did and were executed by the mistress, it would be punishing. Proxy was my replacement for Pixie. It achieved a similar goal, but fixed my issue as of before. And the remaining portion of the script was put together to balance poisoning, drunkenness, outsider manipulation, ways for evil to die at night, escape hatches for evil, and all the roles necessary for a good team to succeed, including hunting minions, demons, and having a balanced town. On the right, you can see my current version that I'm working with. There are a few important changes here. First, Dowager was removed. On paper, learning the Grim as evil on day 2 or 3 sounds powerful. On this specific script, it turned out to be far weaker than expected because a lot of players are hard claiming. Second, the Queen worked okay mechanically and felt very interesting for the script, but it was too much player confirmation along with Duke and Trapper, and ultimately the good team needed a way to support outsiders better, and so it became replaced with the Librarian. Through playtesting, I've learned that Duke and Trapper are by far fan favorite good characters. Players love to play them. Both can be incredibly strong, but they're heavily kept in check by the Amaniti, who does massive lifting for the evil team along with the Nothra. Again, I have playtested the script 20 to 30 times over the course of months, and I will continue to test it and continue to tweak it until I am satisfied and have a final version. Currently, characters that I'm looking at are the Trapper, whether or not it needs to start knowing an in-play minion. Alternative versions I've thought of is removing that, making it so it can only shoot the minion that it saw at the start, or showing it an out-of-play minion to start. This would adjust its power level in 1, 2, and 3 minion games respectively, or weaken the character significantly. Nothra is on the watch list to be replaced, potentially by a character or a demon that creates a little bit more mobility for a demon, as well as Crux, who is on the block for the fact that some players, it's polarizing, some players really like to play it, some players don't like to be thrown onto the evil team in a losing situation. All right, there you have it. My quick overview of the steps I take to create a homebrew script and how you can do so for yourself. So what comes next? Well, what good is it to create all of these ideas if you do not have the tools to run your script at a high level? As you see, I like running my homebrew and custom scripts online using the official app. I have clean, high-quality character images, a custom background, a custom logo, and even, if you look closely here, the functionality to duplicate townsfolk on this script to run the false heart correctly. All of that comes together because this script has a custom JSON created for it that allows you to run it in the app. If you want to do that, check out this video where I show you through exactly how to build that. We'll go through setting up backgrounds, logos, special rules, almanacs, using all of your homebrew characters so that your script not only plays well, it looks and feels professional.